All right, welcome back to Bad Points with Dan Wiggins. We've been off for a couple of weeks. We just been busy, and I was going to ask you, Dan, what have you been doing over these last few weeks?
Other than Thanksgiving and everybody wanted to get everything rushed out and finished for the Christmas rush. I mean, it's always a rough time to be in the consumer electronics and the audio space right now, because not only, Black Friday and all the Christmas rush, but then we got CES happening in early January. We've got NAMM, which is North American Music Manufacturers. You should go to that. It's all about music and sound. In late January, we've got a headphone show in February. So it's like everything just, if you're working the consumer industry or professional industry in audio, from about the end of September through end of February is hell. And then you add
Really?
in everybody wanting to do everything, family and friends. It's like, ah. So anyway,
Is it mainly about sales happening right now or preparation for the next year?
it's both. A lot of times it's about, obviously our own product, Plug Periodic Audio,
Love
is
it.
moving big right now. So that's always busy. A lot of our bigger OEM clients, they're trying to get things rushed in for the last minute to fill some last second holes from dealers. And then the way the cycle works, it's usually a 10 to 12 month cycle. So you establish your goals in January at the trade shows. By February, you've locked them down and you're doing your engineering so you can launch things in September, October in production so it can be sold next year. So it's just that whole cycle. It just makes January incredibly busy, December incredibly busy, a lot of November incredibly busy.
Yeah, gotcha. So you gave a quick plug to Periodic Audio, which I'm a big fan of. Unfortunately, I have misplaced my earbuds from Periodic Audio, but I didn't even they didn't even leave the house, so I'm going to find them.
And
But do what? Well, I banned myself. I'm not allowed to use them because I lost them. But
no problem,
we could
dude.
do
Let
it.
me know.
We could do a kind of a dual plug here because the reason I was actively looking for them, because I don't use headphones or earbuds very often in general, but sometimes I do. And of course, I was looking for the best ones I had, which are from you, the
Mhm.
Periodic Audio earbuds. And the reason I was looking for them is because I've been working on, there goes the dogs. Now, I have Seth Jones, the country rock. I got several albums, lots of songs released, like over 40 maybe. But I also have a
You're on my
band called
playlist.
American Carnage.
Yeah.
Have you heard American Carnage yet?
I have. That's kind of your punk version of things. That's where I actually first learned about you as American Carnage. I'm like, so we got ourselves a true Texas boy singing punk rock with country style lyrics. This is kind of cool.
That's what I thought when I came out with it. I love them both. I can't pick one. It kind of the cool thing about having two different genres is that when you feel like making one, you can do it. When you feel like making the other one, you can do it. And that's why some artists when they do a spin-off, like a country artist does a metal record, like Cody Jinks does metal. Some people they feel betrayed by that. No, I like you as a country artist. What's this crap? I thought you were authentic. Well, that is authentic. He's not being authentic is no, my fans they won't like this. We have to stick to country.
Yeah.
Authentic is doing what you want to do when you want to do it, right? Like because I wanted to do it. I thought it was to be fulfilling for me. So I've been working on a collection of Americarnage songs for several years now. I would say I started them 4 years ago, and
Hmm.
some of them, I mean, there's one song on there that I wrote like 8 years ago. So this project spans a long period of time. It's not like I've been working my ass off for 8 years on it. That's not the case, but on and off. And there are periods where I was working hard, during the production phase, tracking stuff like that. But it is a pretty big project for me, and the I released the album on the 3rd, so just a couple days ago. The
Well,
album is called Plato. It's got baby puppy Plato on the album cover,
there you go. The
so
puppy.
the puppy made an appearance. But I really want to hear that album on those earbuds, on your earbuds, because
If
they
you
did
don't
really
find him
good.
in the next, if you don't find him in the next few days, let me know. I can get you a hookup. I know a guy who knows a guy.
Guy, know, yeah, yeah. He's probably pretty shady, but I'm not above that.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
mean, he's
but
based in Las Vegas. Everything's shady there.
oh yeah, you can't trust anything from
Right.
that
Yeah.
region.
But I mean, just one last thing. One of the things that I've always liked about your songs is the lyrics you put together. Matt Moran is a big friend of a big I'm a big fan of his because of his lyrics again. Just like The Man Over My Shoulder, I just, I switch my pictures every once in a while. This is Johnny Cash. It wasn't that he was a great singer or a great performer, it's that he could tell a story and engage you in a story like nobody's business. And whether it rock or pure country or classical, whatever like that, a good story goes a million miles. And you know, that's what I appreciate about what you've done and what a lot of the other people that I know have done. And that guy, best storyteller ever.
Oh, he was phenomenal, and it's not just telling the story, it's getting the emotions into the story as well, you know?
Exactly.
I'm glad you said that because I agree with you, but the one reason I was so resistant to hardcore metal for so long is because I don't know what they're saying. I have no
Yeah.
idea what they're talking about. Yes, the riffs are just dirty, disgusting, incredible, normal in that regard. I want great music too, of course, but honestly, this album, Plato, is probably my favorite album ever because it's 14 songs. It's a great mix of emotional stuff, clever lyrics. Some of them are funny. It's fun all throughout. And I wrote the songs, but I can't do what they did musically or production wise. Like they absolutely killed it. I used two different, well, I guess technically three different producers, but two different studios. And I got these two guys that kind of wrapped up most of the songs. We would go to this one guy's home studio and we would just completely relax, talk, kind of like hanging out, and then we say, "Oh, let's start working on the songs." So our head space was really, together. Like we were in the same vibe as Gen Z would call it. Had the same vibe. We're all relaxed. We weren't afraid. No one would, if someone suggested something, no one would dogpile them. If we didn't think it was a good direction, we'd be like, "Hey, how about this instead?" And then we'd, there basically no ego. There's no ego
Yeah.
involved in the process. And if anyone's gonna have an ego, it was me. I'm funding it. It's my project, but I'm not like that. So, because all of this is make things worse, you know. But do put on your best periodic audio listening devices and listen to the Plato album. I do believe you will love the lyrics and the production. The music is just you don't hear that anywhere else.
And just for anybody who's listening, watching this podcast, it's available on Tidal. I'm looking at it right now on Tidal. So wonderful. I'm glad you support Tidal. They're the ones who actually have the highest payout to artists. All the music is at least equality or higher. So if you released a high res version at 24.96, it's going to be on Tidal. A lot of the other streaming apps don't even offer CD quality, so they're losing ourselves. And as far as the album, I noticed it starts with a track called Lobotomy. Track 3 is Steamroller. Track 4 is Love Her. And those are an interesting pair. Usually the Steamroller comes with a bit of love, hopefully. So anyway, I'm just going to
Yeah.
sleep. So cool track titles, man.
Yeah,
Lobotomy, Steamroller, Love Her. Okay.
it's funny. Yeah, yeah. It's that like I said, it's 14 songs and they're,
Yeah,
they are definitely cohesive in many ways. Obviously, it's my voice on all of them, but they tackle similar subject matters from different angles. So
cool.
it's a very interesting listen.
I'm going to be
After you
listening
listen to it,
to it this afternoon.
let me know what you think.
It's going to get streamed this afternoon.
Awesome, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Okay,
man.
so everyone knows I filled Dan in right before this. I'm going to let him effectively argue with AI. And which if anyone can do it, it's Dan. And this is not like trying to win. It's going to make people think. It's going to get different ideas, maybe stimulate other people's brains, things like that. So what I want to ask you first is there's a lot of people. I don't think you would argue with this, regardless of your stance. There are a lot of people who do not like the federal agencies, the intel agencies like CIA, FBI, top secret. Well, we can't tell you what happened because it wouldn't be safe. But trust us, we're on your team, we're in
Mm-hmm.
your country, we did the right thing, and yeah, this guy killed JFK, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. We see
Yep.
it time and time again. So we do acknowledge that there are a lot of people have a problem with these intel agencies. So my question to you is, what should we do about that? Meaning, should we get rid of them? Should we have maybe what's it called? The open source. It's a new it's blockchain, like
Yeah.
information based on, maybe there's a delay in it so that the enemy can't see it coming or whatever, but transparency, like what would your solution be? And again, for the audience, I told Dan to give a thesis statement first, which is what I'll tell the AI, and then Dan can expound on it, and I can kind of use that for the response.
So the fundamental question to me is, do we even need organizations like the CIA, FBI, NSA? I think
So
that's a safe.
that has to be asked first,
That's right.
right?
Yeah. Before you can even talk about how do we make them trustworthy or not, it's like, do we even need them? Because if that answer is no, then the rest of it's superfluous, right?
Well, at that point, you'd be arguing like we should get rid of them, and then that would be the argument.
Exactly. So I believe we should have those kind of organizations because ultimately we're human and human are fallen creatures. And we have, we always have the battle within ourselves of good and evil.
Hmm.
And most people are able to ensure the good wins. Many don't. And many have different views about what is good and evil. Those organizations serve to help control, contain, repel a lot of that. That said, so it's like, would we get rid of the police? Would we get rid of the military? No, that'd be stupid to do, right? It's just, well, I'm armed and things like that. Cool. I'm glad you have arms. If 50 of your neighbors decided they wanted to go and lynch you and kill you, and there was no police, sucks to be you. You're gone. I don't care how good of a soldier you are. You're not Chuck Norris. Oh, you're gonna
Anarchy at that point.
Exactly, exactly. If nothing else, it just waits you out. So you do need that kind of thing. And that's actually, part of the way America was set up. Governments are instituted among men to ensure that rights are held equal for everybody. That's why we institute governments. And part of that is the military and police enforcement. That said, I believe we could do a much better job of building trust in these organizations. I believe the original reason they were set up was generally positive, was a good thing, but I believe they've become corrupted over time, just like any organization will happen.
Especially when you have unlimited funding and you do the investigation, you can keep things secret. Yeah, it's a big problem for corruption.
Exactly, exactly. And the fact that you can use it, like we just have been recently learning that, the Biden administration was illegally spying on senators. Now, whether or not you think they should be spied on is immaterial. The point is that was illegal, and they went and spied on senators. And even the senators were notified because they worked with a deep state judge who said, "Yeah, we're going to keep all this quiet, even though that's illegal to keep it quiet. I'm forcing you to break the law to keep it quiet, Mr. Telecoms." And you can use that for the wrong reasons. I believe if it was up to me, it should be essentially a constitutional amendment. So there's no way law can get around it. Is that every single governmental record is released after 20 years? You can only keep something quiet for 20 years, like one generation. I believe if you did that, a lot of the people, the power players who are there for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, either in Congress or in government employment, they're going to get their ass beat hard because 20 years is not going to be long enough for them to hide all this stuff. So they either have to be goody two shoes until they're within 20 years of retirement and then leave and hope it doesn't hit them, or they actually just have to be goody two shoes. So I believe in a constitutional amendment would be my position that mandates sunshine of documents, government documents. It's far enough down the road that it's not going to be an issue with national security. It's not going to be an issue with essentially any court case in front of the Supreme Court 20 years down. They'll be resolved by then. They'll either be denied or they'll be, adjudicated one way or the other. But it's long enough to give the agencies cover for legitimate operations they're doing. Like, hey, we're trying to take down a large narco-terrorist group. We're trying to take down a sex trafficking group. We're trying to take down a large financial smuggling group. It's going to take us 6, 7, 8, 10 years maybe to get all that information before we can take action. Okay, great. You got 20 years. So that's what I would do. I would say, you know what? We're not going to be able to change a lot of what's going on, but if we forced sunshine and it was going to come out when all the players are either still active in employment in the government or are still alive, I think you're going to find people saying, well, wait a minute, maybe, it's going to put a lot of people pause.
Yeah. Okay. So I typed in. I said, assuming we need into government intel agencies because we kind of made that point. Like, oh, we need them, right? We agreed on that. We will argue about what to do about them. My side is every secret file must be released after 20 years, all of them. And I said, what's your argument against this? Okay. So it gave some several answers. So I'll read you one. It's just a short paragraph, and you'll respond to that. And again, sometimes you'll agree with it. You'll be like, well, that's a good point. Let me hear the next one, right? That's an option. Sources and methods die slowly. A clandestine human source recruited in 2005 could still be alive and compromised in 2025. Exposing their file gets them and their family killed and dries up recruitment for decades. Would you agree? Yeah, that's a problem. Remember, that's valid.
I think it's one of those things that's such an extreme corner case. It's probably the 1 out of a million kind of case. And if you're going to go that far and say, well, we're never going to release it, cool, then you know what? Just like a journalist never has to release their sources, fine. You don't have to release the source. You have to identify who they are, but you have to release all their transcripts and records, and their name could be redacted. But I need to know everything that they've done and what was the foundation of what they did. I would agree with that. You know, I mean, we do witness protection. I think that's a valiant thing to do. It's a valuable thing to do. But you know what? Just saying, well, we're not going to talk at all about what this person did forever because they might lose their life. No, 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 no. I'm sorry. If you are essentially a person who's working for government, either directly or indirectly, my tax dollars are going to pay for you. I get to ultimately see what you've done. And I'm giving you grace by letting you go, hey, you got 20 years before your first performance review. There you go.
It's a lot of grace.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would say, you know what? If you want to allow anonymity, fine. But that does not shield the information or what was gathered or what decisions were made about it. And I would not apply it to people who are actually in government employ. So if you're an FBI agent, a CIA agent, a NSA agent, a DOD, DIA agent, you know what? Guess what? Your names are listed because you're already known as a government employee. That's not my problem.
Yeah. And then, you know, so the one part of that argument that the AI gave was, you know, it can kill and dry up recruitment for decades. But what the soldiers of these intel agencies could say was like, look, I knew it was going to be released in 20 years. We all know how this works. We agreed that we need intel agencies. Yeah, I did the thing that was my job to do, knowing that it would be revealed, and also knowing that I didn't make this decision. I'm doing the thing we all agreed that needs to be done. So I do think I do kind of agree with you. You could handle that on the back end. You know, you could do witness protection. You could give them anyone who is implicated in the files of doing something that has outraged the population,
Mhm.
give them security. You know, like
Yeah.
they give presidents, we hate security for the rest of their lives and their families. We can make it happen, right?
Yeah, wiki. I think witness relocation, whole new identities, and a nice cushy, $2 or $3 million bank account. You know what? Disappear. Just
Yeah, you
disappear.
win.
Yeah, I mean that becomes it. So I think there's those kind of things that can be done. You can always compensate people for that. We do right now with soldiers, with hazardous pay, with mercenaries, with spooks, all kinds of things that's happened. So that's what I would do.
Okay, so we tackled that one. Ongoing technical signatures. Many collection methods, such as satellite orbits, malware implants, cryptologic breakthroughs, remain identical or only slightly evolved after 20 years. Full release hands adversaries a free playbook they still actively use against us.
In this case, AI knows nothing of technology it's talking about. Think about
It hallucinated.
what.
It hallucinated. It just made some shit up.
Well, it does that all the time. Like I occasionally will use like AI to say, "Hey, can you write me some copy for my earphones?" They're like, "Yeah," and it does everything good. And says, and they've got all metal shells. I'm like, we have never fucking used a metal shell in our life. And
It
it
just
lists on
made
our
something
website,
up.
it's all Triton plastic copolymers. They're like, but we're metal. It's like AI is an idiot.
Yeah,
So anyway,
and then it'll actually be like, "Oh, my mistake." Like, no, it wasn't a mistake. You lied intentionally to act like you know what you're talking about.
exactly. So I mean, the technology in 2005 is radically different than what it is today. Think about what your cell phone was in 2005. You're rocking a Nokia 3310. You were playing Snake on a little keyboard with T9 entry. 3G was just still in its infancy. It was being dreamt up. Computers are like, hey, great, I've got, this latest processor. It runs at, almost a gigahertz. I've got 8 gigs of RAM. Technology is so radically different. Opticals are so different. Some of the fundamental technologies, the fundamental theories and math underneath those have not changed. AI is correct there. However, that math and those theories have been known since the 40s, since the 30s. What's happened is we've evolved the way to apply them and get better with it. That's a rapidly changing thing. if I went out and said, you know what, I stole all the original lithographs for the Intel 8386 processor, and I now have that to do things with because it's been 25 years since they last built them. Oh my God, what am I going to do with them? Everybody's going to be like, yeah, dude, I don't care about an 8386. It's irrelevant. So AI is wrong there. It's not going to compromise anything because the cryptographic and the analysis techniques are the same. They've been known for decades. They've been published in academic journals left and right. What's happened is our ability to actually, in some cases, actually implement them because we now have enough processing capability, enough resolution in our cameras and things like that, or we have the ability to do it a lot faster. I was just talking to a client earlier today where he was wondering about some test measurement stuff, and I was explaining that interpolation is incredibly important. Do you know what interpolation is?
I feel like I've heard the word, but I definitely cannot
Yeah.
define it.
In a mathematical sense, it's, hey, I got two data points, and I add them. I basically figure out, oh, here's a data point between them, and it would fit those two. So basically, I'm creating new data in between a couple points. So imagine if I have 5 and 7, I add those together, I get 12 divided by 2, I get 6. 6 must be right between 5 and 7. That's interpolation. Well, it gets much more complex than that. Interpolation theory goes back, decades and decades. And I was explaining to him, was like, hey, like we do interpolation in scientific methods, you get interpolation done in the real world. You've used an ultrasound machine, or you've had one used on you, right? And you've seen the image that comes up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I worked in the ultrasound field for a while. I worked for Siemens. I worked for Medison. Did some interesting things with them in ultrasound development. What you see on the image is not real. They take the original data, they interpolate and create an entirely new image that they base upon the original data and say, we think this is a better fit for it. And then that's what they use and show and go everything forward. So those techniques have been around forever. They're well known. It's just that it's getting a lot better in the last 20 years because processing capability is bumped up. So we get better results because we can apply some of these mathematic things. AI is doing the same thing. It doesn't understand that the techniques are the same. Your ability to apply the techniques are much better and are easier. And that's the whole difference. So,
Yeah. Okay.
so
Yeah. And
AI is wrong there, in my opinion.
I think it was kind of just a bad point anyway. Like Intel agencies have always and will always use the same types of methods. Technology will change, but it's all deception. People have been deceiving the same way since biblical times. So
The honeypot, the honey trap has been around since Samson and Delilah, right?
Delilah, yeah,
A
absolutely.
sweet smile and a nice roll of the hay. Guess what? You could cut off all his hair. It works today with
Yeah,
ask Eric Swallow and
bang bang. Yeah, yeah. Sex always works. Let's put it that way. Sex is always going to get you.
that's right. And it's not a new thing. It's just it's getting better and better and better at it because now they can do fake AI. They can then do edited photos and all kinds of things like that. It's easier to entice people now. It's hard to entice somebody via longhand written in the 1800s. Very, very simple today when you can send them videos or photos.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. So that's kind of a bad counterpoint by AI.
That's a layup.
Okay, weaponized history. Hostile states and groups mine old files for propaganda or legal warfare, such as selective leaks to prosecute former agents abroad under retroactive laws. A 20-year firehouse guarantees perpetual ammunition.
And this is exactly where AI is simply being illogical. Okay, so you're going to leak information to make me bad, and I'm going to fight it, but I know in, 12, 13, 14 years down the road, I'm going to be completely vindicated because all the data comes out. What that's done is actually proven that my case was correct and I was right. By sunshining all the information, it becomes incredibly clear about who was wrong and who was right. Now, if I'm in the wrong, of course, I don't want the real facts to come out. If I'm in the right, of course, I want them out. So essentially, by having the information, brought out in the light in the future, it eliminates the ability to do that. It means that if somebody's going to start leaking and attacking you and being selective what they leak or lying about you and knowing that you can't respond because the data is all protected and hidden, well, they don't know. Maybe that investigation is going on for 12, 13 years. The data is 10 years old. And in 10 years, it's going to be proven that they lied and they lost their credibility while the person they attacked gains it. So it ultimately means that at the end of the day, justice comes through one way or the other. Either the accuser is right or the accused are right. And we have the data ultimately come out there. It'll never be held in status of limbo of like, well, we'll never know. No, we will know because it's going to come out. So if anything, it's going to make it easier for people who like to be whistleblowers. It's going to make it easier for people to do the right thing because they know if they're attacked, they're still going to ultimately be vindicated. And at that point, I would say, along with that constitutional amendment I proposed, I would say let's add some laws that say, look, if you make accusations and it's proven you knew they were wrong when they were released, and then it comes out later, there's no statute of limitations on that. So if 5 years ago you did something and I claimed you did the opposite because I leaked information, you can't defend yourself. In 15 years down the road, guess what? You can now sue me for those basically slandering you and everything that's done to you for the last 15 years, because there's no statute of limitations, because you could prove I knew the real information, I leaked it. So I would add that in there too. So if anything, it makes it harder to slander and attack people, because ultimately the truth will come out. And if you're going to be a long-term journalist, a long-term politician, whatever, you know what? You don't want to be defending your seat, defending your position, defending your 10 years down the road, because like, well, you said all this stuff, but now we see the facts were exactly opposite. And we knew that you knew they were exactly opposite. How can I trust you at all right now? Let's get cut your own throat. So
Yeah, that makes sense. So I gave one more rebuttal. Volume is a smokescreen. Millions of pages dumped raw with real names, safe house addresses, etc. creates more secrecy, not less. The public can't process it. Only adversaries with teams can.
So an adversary. Now, again, I'm looking at this from the viewpoint of the U.S. We're pretty much the most technologically advanced nation in the world. An adversary is going to have the ability, with fewer people and less technology than we do, to process the information versus what we can do. Right now, if you look at Google or treat AI the way I do, which is it's basically Google on steroids. I ask it for hard facts. I don't ask it for opinions. I say, hey, I'm looking at evaluating these two chips, for instance. This op amp looks really good. This op amp looks really good. I'll go to Grok, or I'll go to Grok, say, hey, Grok, compare and contrast the audio performance of these two op amps based upon these parameters. And boom, it puts stuff out, because it goes and scrubs the data sheets. And in 10 seconds, I found the key things I want, instead of me spending 20 minutes reading each data sheet. Grok and other AI, if used in that method, can be a very fast way to find out things. I can go through and say, hey, you know what? There was 1 million pages released. Can you summarize these and tell me what was the underlying crime and who are the top 3 actors in that crime? It'll go through, read all those things, and there's a good chance it'll find those out. Don't ask it to say, well, where was the crime? Was it actually a crime or not? Say, who committed this thing and who did that? If you ask for hard facts, it's really good at searching and finding that. Just like Google is, just like hell, like Alta Vista was back in the day, in the 90s. You remember that? Or you're probably
I
too young.
remember Alta Vista, yeah.
Okay, there you go. So, I mean, you'll find good facts like that. It's when you ask it like what you're doing now to make judgment calls that it completely fails down. So I don't see how that's going to happen. And it's only going to get easier and easier and easier to do this as processing power and storage just increases. So I don't see how that's actually realistic, because we've got the best technology. We have the largest technology farms. We have, one of the highest educated and smartest populations in the world. If you look at by IQ, we're in the top 10% in terms of IQ. I don't see how we're going to have to worry about some criminal enterprise in Croatia or Azerbaijan or Qatar trying to take us out, because they've got really no people there, and there's going to be all kinds of things that are taken care of. So, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm going to now make it more broad, I guess. I'm not sure
Okay.
the best way to put it, but basically I'm going to, so you did state we need the agencies, right? I said, make a case that we should abolish these agencies. So we're just kind of moving to a different argument with the same subject. So
Yeah.
here is a concise case for abolishing the CIA and FBI in their current form. And this is probably going to be more interesting,
Mm-hmm.
because I think you got more people arguing whether they should exist or not than how to handle the situation, to be honest with you, at least at this point in time. So, one, unaccountable power. Both have repeatedly lied to Congress, courts, and the public, such as MK Ultra, COINTELPRO, mass surveillance post 9/11, crossfire hurricane abuses. No civilian agency should have secret police powers plus a track record of perjury.
I agree 100% there. I mean but that's not arguing why you don't want the agency. It's arguing about why the agency is being run incorrectly. What needs to happen are those who are in charge of the agency, and more importantly, what the people need to realize, it's not just like Christopher Wray or Comey or people like that who screwed things up. It's the senators and the representatives who sit in Congress who oversee them on the oversight committees, who need to literally get fired and thrown out. It's like, you failed in oversight. you know, or hey, if this stuff caught you flat-footed, well, I'm concerned about that, but then you need to do everything you can to actually, we're going to authorize a, a special attorney, a special investigator going out and get these people independent, and that's their whole focus is go nail that guy to the wall. So it's by not holding the people who are using the agencies incorrectly accountable that the agency becomes corrupted. It's not the agency itself. I mean, it's like the same thing. If you think about when the Catholic Church was selling indulgences, that was wrong. It wasn't that the church was wrong. It was that the people running the church were wrong. Completely different things. So, to me, that's not an argument at all. It's like, well, you're arguing about how it's used, not whether or not it should even exist.
Now this is me, not I don't think it's even remotely. So first of all, you are correct. We do have a solution to the corruption, an
Yeah,
oversight committee, right?
yeah,
Like that's the solution. They just suck at it. They've been doing a bad job. And the more I look into the history of our government and how it has been operating, the results of how they operate, things like that, so basically if you got one end of the spectrum, people saying, well, the FBI said this, like, end of story. How could you question our government? Like, they're the people that protect us. Like, you know
yeah,
those people.
but yeah,
The closer you are to that end of the spectrum, the more outlandish it would sound. We're like, no, it's literally been overcome by satanic worshipers who control all of this. Like, if you're on that end of it's the government. They're here to help us. They protect us. If you're on that end, saying something like, yeah, there's satanic transgender worshipers who run pedophile rings, you sound like a crazy person for saying that. And then, vice versa. If you believe they're a satanic cult that's running a globalist communist empire that's enslaving everyone under the control and they'll never get caught. But if you believe all that stuff, then you think that the person who says they're our friends to protect us, you think they're the crazy one, right? But the more I look into everything, the more it seems uh, the people the people who think it's a satanic pedophile cult that worship, Maylog and Baal are correct.
mhm,
So I'll just tell you that I've moved way more in that direction. I just don't think you can trust these people at all. But my thing is, I've come, because the deeper you go, the more other things that you never considered start to make way more sense. And I think that they really do, because well, let me just say the statement first. I think that they do. It doesn't matter who you hire. You're either we're going to make you do what we say, or you're going to die. And you're going to go, your family's going to die. You're going to die. We're going to torture your kid and video it and send it to you. And then now, your other kid's next. I think all that stuff is completely plausible. I think it's more plausible than, no, they're our friends. They're here to help us. They never lie to us, or whatever that stance is. If you look at Cash Patel, he acted completely different before he became the director of the FBI.
mhm,
He seemed like a different person. He was really bold. You know how you can tell when someone's lying, you can tell when someone's excited about something. You just get the feeling. Maybe it's the little intricacies about where they look, how they're
yeah,
breathing, what their eyes look like, stuff like that. He literally seems like a clone of himself. Or he seems like somebody that has been told, well, you're in the big boy chair. This is how we do things. This is what's happened to people who didn't do the things. We're going to make you watch the video. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. Whatever methods they use, Ash Patel seems like a completely different person now. Like the way when him and Bongino were talking about, yeah, Epstein, he killed himself. I wish we could give you what you want to hear, but he killed himself. People need to understand what the difference. They need to understand that me and you, Dan and Seth, are living a completely different life and in a different world than the people who are at the peak of power. I'm talking about the peak of earthly power. They can watch anyone, read anything. They have unlimited funding. They can kill people, and who's going to investigate it? Me, the guy that killed them, right? And then you have to consider all the implications of that, what that does to these people, not just the rewards of the power, but the punishment of not going along with it. With all of that stuff considered, it really seems like you're choosing between like the choice to have intelligence agencies as it stands, while Satan controls it, or however you want to frame it, as it stands, choosing the intelligence agencies is choosing this system of oppression and enslavement by an elite group of people at the top, and getting rid of them is choosing freedom and all of the dangers that come with that.
Yes and no. I mean, in the case like Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, and some other high publicity people, Pete Hegseth, things like that, who went into the Trump administration, I think what they're realizing now is it's one thing to be a private individual and say stuff. It's another when you're the FBI director in terms of how you have to guard your words. I've seen it with people as they've moved up in career in companies, as they've gained notoriety in the press, audio press, whoever like that. You have to be much more guarded with your words. You have to be much more careful with your words, because not only do you open yourself up to legal liability, you open yourself up to much more dramatic challenges. And so I think a lot of what you're seeing in terms of the reticence, I bet when this all over and Cash is no longer FBI director, if I had a beer with him, he probably admit yeah, I think Epstein killed himself. The issue is, though, he could say that privately. As FBI director, is there incontrovertible proof that he did? And if that evidence doesn't exist, you can't make the claim. You see what I mean?
And it will never exist. It will never exist. They
It
don't
may
want it
never
to
exist.
exist.
It
It
may
will
not
never.
exist. We don't know. But the thing is, you got to be much more careful what you do. So I give folks like that, just like a guy who moves up that I know, who moves up in career in a corporate. It's like, hey, I understand how you have to change your methods and what you say and how you do things, because you're in a much more high visibility position that impacts not just you, but a lot of people underneath you now. You're not just an individual contributor. You're a technical lead. You're a technical director. You've got 50, 80 people underneath you that you need to worry about. And so you're not going to just always go with your best gut instinct. You're going to go with what I think is best for the people with me. So, but the way to solve a lot of that, and like, well, maybe there's a cabal, maybe there isn't, things like that. There probably is somewhat of a cabal that's controlling some folks. The way to do that again, though, is sunshine. Is, what it comes out in 20 years, it's like it's out there. It's like, well, wait a minute. They made these claims and stuff like that, and now it turns out those claims weren't real. And it's very quick then for journalists to go through, well, this person was involved in 18 of these things over the last 35 years. They're the problem. If you make it so that, it would be interesting to, I mean, you've got the speech and debate clause. It basically says congressmen can lie on the floor of in the chamber, right? I would limit it to it's strictly on the floor of the chamber when the House or Senate are in session. If you are just outside the door, you're not protected. If you're on the floor and the Senate or Congress are not in session, you're not protected. If you're in your office, you're not protected. You get it in one little specific area at specific times where you can say whatever the hell you want. You're not going to get it. Outside that, you open yourself up to liability. I think that's important. I think also if we knew how some of these 20, 30, 40-year Congress critters have been funding themselves in some of the shit they've done in the back end that we don't know because it's not sunlighted, I think a lot of them wouldn't last that long. They'd probably change a lot of how they act too. So I think I don't think there is that issue. There may be a group. There's always a group who's trying to control everything. That's human nature. That's the fundamental flaw of communism and socialism. It assumes that everybody's going to be equal and treat everybody else like they want to be treated. No. Everybody's like, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Animal Farm kind of thing. Yeah. Everybody wants to be the pig. That's just a fundamental flaw. And that's even with people who go into Congress and things like that. It's rare the person who isn't. I think having sunshine kind of forces them to always at least take that second step. Their intentions may not still be pure, but it may stop them from taking action because they're like, crap, this is going to get known here in another 12, 13, 14 years. If I want to still be a senator more than 1 or 2 terms or 3 terms, I need to make sure I don't do that. I need to make sure I don't pull that kind of crap. I need to make sure I don't have this backdoor deal with this other folk. That would be very much what I would do. And it's pretty simple. Congress is every person who's elected to federal office or sworn into federal office is subject to the same laws as everybody else in the U.S., except when they're, in the case of Congress, talking during session on the floor of their respective chambers. So if you're a representative in the Senate, you don't get protection. If you're a senator and the representative, you don't get a check. Or the president when he's in the White House. Outside of that, the president, hey, if he lies, he's liable. So
Yeah.
I think doing that kind of thing, treating them as citizens and forcing some sunshine on all their actions after 20 years would change a lot of that. If there is a cabal in the background trying to change things, it's gonna be a lot harder for them to do it because it's awfully hard to overcome publicity. They're working in secret because they need to work in secret because nobody would put up with their shit. So if it's going to be public, they have to go either much deeper or suddenly instead of trying to do things in 2 or 3 decades, like, well, how do we set this up for 3 or 4 centuries? And most things fall apart before that.
Yeah. So a problem that I've always had with this whole concept of a dirty globalist shadow government that all has they have shared interests, right? Like if the American government and their intel agencies work with Israel's government intel agencies, who also work with the France's intel agencies and government. You got all these different countries, UK. It's like it's mutual destruction because they all have the same information on each other. And if the French government said we're gonna tell the truth about everything, well, it's not gonna work out. The other most powerful people in the world, and this is something that I'm sure you understand, but some people don't understand like the general concept. Like we're here in terms of power, and 8 billion light years above us is governments. These power, like the United States government, the French. I mean, it's not even remotely. We might as well be subhuman in power level to them. Like we're a scrap of algae, and they are Leviathan.
I would say no. I would put it more like ants and termites by weight are about 1,000 times more populous than the human race. The only reason we dominate the world and can control ants and termites is because they haven't decided to organize against us. If somehow they gain super intelligent organizing against us, it would be over. What would you do if you were attacked by 10 million fire ants? You would die. There's nothing you could do about it, especially if
I
they were
would
coordinated.
I would nuke them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then you're destroying your own land, and they're
I
everywhere.
don't. No, here. Let me stop you. So this is something that I'm fairly certain about this.
Yeah.
I will never give you proof because I can never have proof. I could make a big case for it. I could compile all this evidence, make a video for you, but I'm not that guy. And the people that are that guy, they get attacked relentlessly by our government and the people who side with them. I mean, look, you're going to get this. I'm done. You're going to see this for a long time. I'm done with our government.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Done with them.
I
I'm
get
done
it.
with the whole global system. I'm done with clandestine, at least as it is. Um, here's here's what I think happens. I think that if the if the people fully awaken, say, hey, we have, just to use the termite example, are all termites in the world going to get together and rebel? No. Are all American citizens going to get together and rebel? No. It's more possible than the termites for
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, way more possible. But I don't see it happening. They have too much propaganda control. They pay people, they blackmail people, key people. It's so much easier now. So, and I am definitely rambling, but you can push the stop button and comment whenever you want to. But back in the 60s, how many news channels were there in America? Like six?
Yeah,
Well,
if that.
all the I'm just going to call them, I never know what to call them. I'll just call them the satanic globalists. And that is the government, the other governments, and all the intel agencies and all the people they work with, whether it's a pedophile ring or assassins for hire or a media group, right? It's all this one disgusting blob that makes me sick to my stomach that we have to live under. But back then, you've got, let's just say, six news channels. That is the only way we can get information that we can't get in our hometown walking around looking at rocks and trying to figure out who killed JFK, right? Like,
Absolutely.
it's not going to happen. All we have is the news. And they can even do controlled opposition on the news and have a little argument. And then the guy that thinks the CIA was involved just happens to be less convincing every time. But whatever the case may be, the government does not have to go into everybody's houses and give them a struggle session. They just have to control the six news organizations, right? Which is that was what was Operation Mockingbird is what they called that. Um, but then the internet, and then again with podcasts, it became very decentralized, and we're like at a I think we're past it now, like the media crisis, if you want to call it that. Imagine the entire world has an earthquake, and then when it's done, different land, South America's attached, and everything's like a cataclysm, right?
Yep, yep,
That
yep.
has happened with our media now. So the government can't just control six things. You might be like, oh, how they deal with this? Well, I have a podcast, I have a voice, but I have about 15 listeners per episode. They don't care about me. So the big influencers, the Mark Levin, the Candace Owens, the Ben Shapiro, the Charlie Kirk, may he rest in peace, Tim Pool, these big media names, they just have to get them. Like that's the new news station. It's the most successful, who's got the biggest influence. They have to get the influencers on board. So I believe I am seeing that happen right now. Like you'll get people. So for example, Tim and I don't have proof of anything. That's going to be a reoccurring theme every time I argue against the government.
Yeah, yeah,
Literally every time. I'll never have the proof they have, and their proof doesn't even have to be real. Tim Pool used to be like a when I first. Are you familiar with him? Familiar with him, by the way? Okay, I didn't want to keep going on about someone you've never heard of. But so everyone knows he's a podcaster, influencer, politics, other social stuff. When I first heard of him, he went on Joe Rogan, and I knew much less about literally everything at that time. I just thought he was a dirty leftist. Like, that's what I thought because he was saying like he said a couple of like liberal stuff. That's why I was like, Joe's got a leftist on. Well, it turns out over time I learned he was really just a populist. Like he was kind of he did the populist movement, right? When in 2016 when MAGA came about, he was critical of it, but he was also like, well, these are some good ideas. Yeah, we should secure the border, stuff
yeah.
like that. Over time, it seems like so there's a divide in the MAGA party. There's in 2016, MAGA sounded very, very America first populist.
Mm,
And
yeah,
then over time, after someone tried to kill Trump, and Trump's been through a lot. After all the stuff he's been through, there's like a divide, and I don't know what other people are saying about the divide. No one's really. Some people have broken it down, but the way I view it, it's like so. MAGA was a car, and we all got in the MAGA car. Finally, someone who's going to, bunk the system. He's not getting paid by all these foreign billionaires, political action committees. Like it was a magical time. You remember it? It was like,
yeah,
oh
yeah.
man, finally someone that's not in the swamp saying he's going to drain the swamp. So that was a car. MAGA was a car, and we all got in. We loved it. And then over time, Trump started doing things that his second term started feeling different than the first term. It's like, why does he keep having Netanyahu visit him in the White House? Why is he bombing Iran? Blah blah blah. And I'm not even going to argue whether that was right or wrong. I'm just saying it felt way different because, and I can speak to this because I'm not in the MAGA car anymore. That's why I can speak to it. I'm speaking from that perspective. It generally felt different, or else I'd still be in the MAGA car. So then another car came back and said, hey, we're what we thought MAGA was going to be. We're the populist movement. And not only are the cars clearly different and what they want to happen, like, for example, the MAGA car is saying the Epstein thing is a hoax. Y'all still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? And the other car's like, yeah, you son of a bitch. That's the most important thing. Like, yeah, we want to stop the pedophile stuff. We want to stop the wars. We want to stop all. We want to be. It's getting to the point where they're saying we want to be isolationists, which whatever. But not only are they in different cars, but Trump is like running our car off the road now. He's attacking two of my favorite politicians are Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, and
Mhm.
he is relentlessly like he drove Taylor Greene out. Massey, he's doing everything that he can to get Massey's like that's probably my favorite politician is Thomas Massey,
Sure.
and he's actively like they're spending millions and millions of course his donors are doing it, but 1 degree of separation. I'm not doing it. It's not me. But he's also attacking him on social media and stuff. So there's like a there has been a divide somewhere, and
I don't know if there's actually been a divide. I think what you're
it
seeing
feels
is
very much I mean, think about this. I'll let you talk in a second, I'm sorry. Just to clarify that, I'm gonna to that point, um, it the fact that a lot of people were in the car because they liked what it was doing, and now they had to get in a different car because it's not doing that. I mean, that's a divide, right?
no. What it is, it's forced. And the fundamental, I believe the fundamental flaw in that approach is populism. A populist has no center. They go with what's popular. And as the will of the people changes, so does the populist position. It's the ultimate form of democracy. And democracy is literally mob rule. The problem why you see people rise and fall, like, you've seen Tucker rise and fall. Right now, Candace Owen rise, but I think we're watching her fall. I think because, and I think others like, Tim Pool may a little bit. I don't, I'm gonna counter Mark Levin a bit. The ones who are not populists, I would put like the old Rush Limbaugh. He was incredibly stable in what he believed in. Steven Crowder, I'd say a Victor Davis Hanson. Guys like that are like, we have a fundamental position and we're going to defend that position. I'm willing to talk about how that position can evolve over time, but this is a position. A populist says, hey, this seems to be popular, so we're going to go with. And then when they get a taste of that, when they get this meteoric rise in because of social media and the ability to get your word out there, they're like, oh, I have to keep going with that to keep my income and my self-validation big. Because again, think about it, Seth, if you have no central beliefs on your own, and suddenly you make a statement that gets very popular and it boosts your ego, you're not going to go ahead and just drop that because holding that
And
position.
makes money,
What?
and makes you a lot of money.
Exactly. You're just not going to drop it because it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get rid of it. No, because you have no central tenets in the first place. You'll do whatever strokes your ego and puts money in your pocket. That's the problem with populism. Populism is just another word for mob rule, democracy. We're not a democracy on purpose. Democracy is 50% and one of us vote to take your house. You have a
Yeah.
choice.
No, you don't have to sell me on how shitty democracy is.
Exactly. So with those kind of things, when you look at it, I think at that point you're looking at it's less a divide in MAGA. It's more of a divide of people who were never actual America first, now claiming to be America first to just get popular because they see America first as a popular group. Ooh, if I could go on in there and just say this, oh, and then if I throw in these other things from that group over there who are not America first, they'll like me too. Now it seems to be a split, but it's really not. It's kind of contrived by media. And I've been around enough. You see this happen, come and go on cable TV and things like that as they move in and out. I don't think you're going to see a very consistent growth that way. And not to defend Trump, but I mean, he's signed everything. He's authorized everything to get released about the Epstein files. The courts have held it up, and like it or not, he's obeying what the courts say. And that's the rule of law. So, like he said, hey, we signed, we authorized this stuff. The courts are saying no, you can't release the grand jury testimonies. Okay, so what does he do? Does he ignore the courts, or does he say we're going to live by it? Okay, Congress passed a law, great, he signed it. Now it's up to Congress to go in and because Congress has the ability to fund the courts, them to be with courts because he can't. His hands are tied, so he could say. And when he said it's a hoax, he wasn't saying Epstein was a hoax. He was saying I'm in the fact that he was associated with Epstein was a hoax because he wasn't.
He was also saying the Democrats have fudged it, like it's not what it was.
100%. Because if he was in those files anywhere, it would have been released
They
day
were
one of
released
the
in a
Biden
heartbeat.
administration. He'd be destroyed. Yeah. So he's not there, and I fully agree. It's like, well, it's obvious. They're not going to do that. So I think a lot of it is populism is a danger, especially to people on the right, because at first they'll join you when you're popular, but they're not going to join you because they have your core interests at heart. They're joining you simply because you have a lot of followers that can make them money and influence and stroke their ego. It's got to be good when you sign on and say, I got 2.4 million viewers today. Yeah, awesome. Versus, hey, Seth Jones got 16. It's a completely different thing, right? It's a different stroke of the ego. So you look at those who are like, well, wait a minute, but their positions evolve over time and they change over time. And well, why are they doing it? Because they're chasing an audience rather than building an audience who believe them. So those are the folks to avoid. And those are also the ones, if you're an opponent of them, what can I do to get that person to pay attention to me so I can start pulling some things off and take some of their followers over to my side? they become my number one target if I'm a leftist. If there's a populist in the MAGA group, I want to target those people and get them in my sphere of influence, because then when I start drifting them off with their positions, I'm taking a big chunk of the MAGA with me. That's the
Yeah.
point.
And here's the
It's a soldier who gets to the front line and goes, oh, I don't know if I can really shoot against the enemy that's charging me. Those are the people you want to attack. And
yeah,
that's what
and
populist is.
it's very first of all, all that was very good. This does not discount what you just said. I think I was wrong saying populist.
Yeah, yeah.
I came to that conclusion after you said that. And it's also very complicated because you're basically describing grifting. Like
Yeah.
oh, this is very popular. I'm going to keep it. This is what gets numbers. Every time I bash Trump, I get more numbers, you know. But it's very complicated because there are grifters in every sect. A grifter is a grifter. Like you said, they don't have a belief system. They're going to grift
And the
towards.
biggest way to spot them is, do they actually share information? Like, one of the things I appreciate about Steven Crowder, I don't agree with all of his positions, but every single time he has an episode, every single claim he makes on his show has a reference. A lot of them that make claims and say, well, this is happening, and I had this, and I had that, and I've seen this and that. They're like, trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. I've got it. I don't have to show you reference. Trust me, bro. Fuck you. I don't know you. No, I'm
Right.
not going to trust you. If you're going to make a claim that's outland, the old Carl Sagan thing, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So if you're going to make a claim that the French are trying to kill me with Mossad agents here in the U.S., great. How do you know that? Well, I've got all this information. Share the information. Number one, it validates your position. Number two, it's the best way to stop the attack, because once it's out there, and the French government then has to go, oh, no, we really didn't mean to do it. They have to call everything off, because now if she does die, holy crap, guess what? Incontrovertible proof. So the best way to insulate yourself is to throw it out there, right? It's like the best way, which you're always counseled, if you go talk to a lawyer, you're being blackmailed. The best thing for you to do, the lawyer says, number one, we're going to document it so we can charge the person who's blackmailing. Number two, immediately let this information out, because it eliminates all the leverage the blackmailer has on you. And it may be heinous, and it may be painful, but it's going to be much more painful and drawn out a lot longer if you let it go. So again, sunshine disinfects that. So I think there's internal struggles. Like, I like the deportation of illegals. I think that's happened, right? I don't agree with Trump in terms of H-1Bs. I believe, now I'm a tech guy, I believe there are needs for H-1Bs, but the rules need to be significantly changed. I would say, guess what? An H-1B, if you're going to be here, it's a 1-year contract, maximum twice renewable, so you could be up to 3 years. Offer you a green card. It doesn't allow any of your family to come over with you. They have to apply independently. It may be just you. And the minimum you have to be paid is you have to earn in the top 10% of all people in your field. I'm not going to bring in folks that are making $35,000, $50,000, $80,000 a year to replace a normal $120,000, $140,000 engineer. No, you're going to be top paid. You're going to have to be, oh shit, they're bringing me over to computer science in AI research or in optics research. Well, the top 10% average $600,000. I'm going to have to earn in that level. Well, suddenly companies are like, well, I'm not going to bring over 50 of them. I'll bring over one because I really, really need him. That's the
Yeah.
way to refine it, to get back to what the H-1B was originally about. There are holes. Like, people are like, well, why do we need it? Well, our rocket program actually got started with a bunch of ex-Nazis. We brought over it's
Right.
sometimes you want to offer and say, you know what, we're going to let a couple hundred or maybe a couple thousand of the smartest minds in the world come and work for our companies here for a few years, because we could use them. It makes our country stronger, our country better. That's where I draw the line on H-1B. So I think it's being misused. I disagree with Trump on his position on that. But I think if I had a chance to sit down with him for 10, 15 minutes and tell him my experience in tech and my beliefs, he'd probably come around and say, you know what, I think you're right. I think we do need to change the rules dramatically of how we give out H-1Bs. And I think I could probably persuade him to at least, maybe not all the way in my position, but way off of his line of, we just leave it open, right? So I think that's fine. So I disagree with him on some things. I don't think, though, his fundamental positions are different from mine. I think it's more about how do I implement those fundamental positions. So that's what I was come down to, is what's a person's fundamental core? What's their fundamental positions? Do I agree with those? Yes or no? If I don't care how much they say they're going to be part of my group. They're not part of my group. Would you, I know you're a Christian. Would you
Mhm.
actually have I'm a Christian. I got friends who are Buddhists and atheists and all kinds of things, like a couple who are Muslim. But if it was somebody who was really extreme and say, you know what, you're Christian, I think you need to die, and I think everything about your culture and your religion needs to be ended, I'm probably not going to be friends with them. There's just no way we're not even going to have close to the same vision on 90% of what happens, right?
Yeah.
There's no overlap. It's not even like I could be friendly with you and we only overlap 65%, 50% of the time. It's like that's not going to happen. So I look for those kind of things. And when a person's core beliefs, once they're mature, once they're in their late 20s, early 30s, they kind of set their identity. When they start to drift around and follow, that's a person who's just grifting, who's looking to make money, who just wants to get a lot. And those are the ones who are the most dangerous to our side because they'll get yanked and pulled over to the other side.
Yeah, it's to me, it's I feel like I can identify grifters pretty well. But also, if they're grifting for my side and they're effective, I don't really call them out. It's
But
just like,
see,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's where we should. That's absolutely where we should. Is because they will be called out by the other side immediately. And so if we call them out first, then at least they're ready for it. And I guess that's part of being an engineer. I've been trained from day one that I'm always wrong. The scientific method, I've summed it down, summed the entire scientific method into 4 words. I don't believe you. That's literally the fundamental of the scientific method.
it's the start of it.
You're making a claim? Prove it. Prove it to me. You're wrong until you prove it to me that it's right. That's the fundamental thing. And as an engineer, that's how I tend to think about a lot of things in the world. I also don't have an ego. The best engineers are the ones who have done the 20, 30, 40 years of here's a design, putting it in front of 50 other people and having them tear your design apart as a piece of shit. And then coming back, fixing it and doing it again and doing it again until it's finally good. That's part of engineering, is taking something and finding out why it's not working right and breaking it down. And if you have an ego, you don't last more than 4 or 5 years of that. So you have to have that ability to do that. We have to challenge our own and put them through that same kind of fire. We have to put them through that same kind of tempering of, look, you made a claim. Where's your data? Oh, trust me. I'm not going to trust you. In fact, I'll never trust you. Just because you were right 100 times before makes me give you the leniency to maybe have an extra couple of weeks or a month to prove it with data. But I'm not going to ever let you just get off by saying, well, I don't have to prove it. No, I still have to prove it. The company I'm working with now, I've been with them for a year, doing some work for them, technical director. At first, they're like, yeah, you're a really good guy. You're making some claims. You want to do some things. We don't know, but we're going to give you the leeway to actually build prototypes. I built the prototypes. They're like, oh, yeah, we see it's actually working. If I was a brand new engineer, they're like, no. You do all the simulation and all the math and prove it first. They were willing to trust my gut instinct because I've been doing it for 30 years. I've built a career at it, but I still had to prove myself. I still had to build samples and build physical units and do the measurements and then let them come on in and look at the measurements, run the measurements, and listen to it themselves. Say, God, it actually does work. Yes. So we need to put our own champions, our own podcasters, our own media people through that kind of a crucible. We have to encourage them. If you're making a claim, you better show the data. And if you don't show the data in a week or two, then you're dead to me because you're literally faking it. And if you're going to delay it for a week or two, why are you doing that? It only harms you and me. It does nobody good. So that's something I'm really strong about. And that's why I appreciate how some folks that always back their stuff up. Limbaugh always backed his stuff. Victor Davis Hammonds backs his stuff up. Steven Crowder backs his stuff up. He's like, here it all is. Here's the numbers. You don't believe me. Here's the sources. Go check it. Oh God, you're right. Yeah, it's right. So you could dispute how he interprets the numbers, but you can't dispute the numbers themselves.
Right.
That shifts the whole conversation. Like, are illegal immigrants criminals? Well, not all of them. Per legal definition, entering the U.S. without authorization or re-entering is a crime. Overstaying a visa is a civil infraction. So is that criminal? No, but it is illegal. So you need to classify as like, well, they're not criminals. You're right, but they're illegal. There's a difference. And you can't argue that, well, they're not illegal. Wait a minute. Here's a statute that says it's illegal and they can be removed because of it. Oh, well, but they're not criminal. Okay, we've already agreed they're illegal. Now we're talking about what's the penalty for illegal actions. See how we've changed the whole argument from are they criminal or not to how do we treat people who are breaking the law? Because they've broken the law. So that's how you reframe things with basic facts. And unfortunately, too many on our side are willing to jump on media figures and podcasters who don't carry that through, who don't understand that, and are willing to just say something because it gets a reaction. And that's wrong. It's a TikTokification of our media, of our politics.
Well, I think those people will ultimately, they're not, like you said, they're not going to last.
No.
Like over time, if nothing is ever revealed, then people will not only stop listening to them, but they'll probably be really mad at them for wasting their time. So I think that problem solves itself ultimately.
they'll find that 20% of their listeners will become a core conspiracy and just kind of float out there with them and stay with them forever, and they'll kind of live with that. So the goal is to build up 3 or 4 million people, knowing that when I finally do break off, I'll have 400,000 or 500,000 stay with me, and it's enough to fund me. That's all I
Right.
have to worry about. So it's a danger that way. But to get back to something I was saying a little earlier about the ants and the termites, if everybody in the U.S. literally said, "I'm going to vote for the not for the I'm going to vote anti-incumbent in the federal elections,"
Anti what?
anti-incumbent.
Whoever wasn't just the
Whoever's in the
president.
position, I'm just going to vote the opposite. And I don't care about party. If it's a Republican in there and they're being challenged, I'm going to vote anti-incumbent. In other words, just clean sweep the entire bloody thing.
Yeah.
And then you had a president who came in, who ran on, who was elected. I'm going to literally take everybody who's a GS 13 and higher and fire them.
What's a GS?
So government GS 3 and up kind of level. GS 17, GS 18 is like super high
Security
level.
clearance?
No, it's actually just level of importance. If you're just below if you're not a nominated and appointed, a Senate confirmed position, you're in the GS scale kind of a thing. And so, like
Okay.
everybody who's working just for the assistant, like everybody who's working for Dan Bongino, they'd be on a GS scale. Now, some of them are
Okay.
incredibly important people, and they're
Yeah.
literally like, I could do anything Dan does except sign on the final check. But otherwise, I have all the same authority. They're a GS scale, GS 17, GS 18, real high level people. So basically, go through. I'm going to clean out all the upper echelons of all government, and I'm going to completely wipe everything else. You know what? We would have chaos for around 5 or 7 years, but we'd reset the government, and that's how our government was set up. It wasn't done that. The problem with government is that it's too big in things that it shouldn't be doing. It's not that the power of government has the ability to do a CIA, DIA, FBI, NSA, DOD. Those are core functions of why the Constitution, why the government was set up, to protect our own rights, to protect us against enemies, foreign and domestic. It wasn't set up to do education. It wasn't set up to do energy. It wasn't set up to do commerce. It wasn't set up to do agriculture. It wasn't set up to do all these various things that it does. That was not the whole purpose of government, and that's how it controls people. Look at what's going on with the healthcare debate right now. Oh, you guys are going to cause millions of people to not be able to afford their healthcare. No, none of us can afford our healthcare. We were paying for those people to have cheaper healthcare. How much of my money do I have to spend so that others can have cheaper healthcare? That's literally what's going on. The way to do that is to get government out of healthcare. I'm dealing with a situation. My wife had neck surgery a little over 2 months ago. She had 2 discs in her neck replaced, cervical. She's doing fine. 2 months in, she's like, "Oh, I'm not feeling any pain. I can actually move. I don't have numbness in my arms and things like that." Good. Yeah, guess what?
Nice.
That's what
They don't
happens,
always
right?
work out, I promise you that.
Yeah, it doesn't always work out, but the guy we work with, so we went, shout out to Norvita, Nevada Orthopedic and Spine Center. They're the same guys who rebuilt my wrist when I shattered my wrist. The guy who worked on my wrist there, Dr. Holman Chan, he works only on wrists and elbows. He doesn't work on anything else. The guy who worked on Jessica's neck, he's a spine specialist who works C1 to C9. He doesn't do anything else. So
Ooh, that's a
you
good
have guys
sign.
who like hyper focus. And so as a real Dr. Sharif's like, "Oh yeah, I've done like 1,200 of these in the last 3 years." Like, it's not a
Yeah.
problem. It's
That's all
going
I
to go
do.
good. So it's not like, well, let me look it up on Google. How does Google say the next step? So, it's not that stuff. But 2.5 months ago, we're still dealing with, having to go back to the doctor. She had a checkup the other day, and they're like, well, you still have a $2,000 outstanding balance. I'm like, what do you mean? We've paid everything. Oh, no. It's like, wait, let's talk. Where's your billing person? Billing person comes out and goes, oh, yeah, well, we just submitted some of our final bills 2 days ago to insurance. I go, the problem is now why, and I know why it takes 2, 3, 4 months for bills to actually get put into the system, and then 2 or 3 months to get approved back out. So you finally know actually how much you pay and what you're responsible for, because of all the government coding and because of all the government regulations we're putting with HIPAA, we're putting with Obamacare and all that kind of stuff. It makes it worse. Government is ruining systems. And so as a result, they want to put more money in it and hire more government people to take care of it because it feeds itself. The problem with government is if we eliminated all the things it's not supposed to be doing, if we rolled it back to like the 1800s, 1885 level of government would be 95% smaller, and having an FBI would be a non-issue because, yeah, they could learn dirt about you, but there's no way they can enforce it. There's not much they can do about it. They don't have the power to do a lot of things. They'll turn it over to the local state police authority who do anything about you. So that's where I would take it. And that, to me, while that may be a populist, I think it's a very MAGA thing of like, let's just throw them all out. I do get frustrated with guys like Massey. I think generally he's okay, but he's too much of an engineer. He's not enough of a realist. In fact, he's worse than an engineer. He's more of a scientist, and that's bad because he's an MIT guy. MIT, it's Anyway, just kind of ragging on MIT, but a scientist is a person who looks for the perfection. An engineer is a person who looks for the best. So art and science are about the perfect, finding the perfect, right? Writing a song is about creating the perfect capture of your moment, of your emotions. You'll work on it, refine it, get to where you want. Engineering is about finding the perfect set of compromises. And Massey has forgotten that. That sometimes you're like, you know what? I'm not getting everything I want, so I'm not going to take my ball and go home. But if I can get 96% of it or 87% of it, I'll take that now and I'll go out the next quarter and see if I get the rest of it.
Well, here's the difference though. You're talking like, which this isn't wrong, but this is how Tim Pool does it. He's like, we're trying to form a coalition in the Republican Party so the Democrats can't win.
But we have one.
Yeah, but so there's two different views. It's we have to be united or those guys will win,
No,
which makes sense.
no,
But then there's the no, I vote for what I want. That's the whole concept. And it's like, no, but what you want isn't helping us. Yeah, but it's what I want. I'm voting for that. So there's like two different schools of thought and how we should handle the whole Republican
no.
Democrat Party. It's
So
like
the
Democrats united. If we don't get united, we're going to get open borders and transgender surgeries again. And I understand that, but then that destroys the whole concept of no, I want this. I'm voting for this. If I lose, I lose.
but fundamentally, we are united and we are the majority. No, so discounting Biden's fake 81 million votes. I don't think anybody believes it at this point, right?
Hopefully not.
President Trump in 2024 had the most presidential votes of any president in history.
Makes sense too.
We are united. We are united. There are more people.
I don't think we are anymore.
Well, no. So, but here's the thing. Again, this is where the enemy of good is great. Have you heard that saying before? The
Yes.
doing good. If you're holding off doing good because you want perfection, you're never going to achieve anything, right? And that's where, unless you're aligned exactly with me, you're going to fail. Like, you know who Emo Phillips is, the comedian?
I've heard the name, but no.
Okay, go look at Emo Phillips' religion. He has a joke about religion where he's like, Emo is one of the funniest comedians you're going to listen to. But he goes like, hey,
What
I love
era is he
traveling.
from?
Yeah, and I met this guy and we were talking about where he's from. He's like, oh, I'm from the South. Oh, me too. Do you go to church? Yes. What are you? I'm Baptist. So am I. Are you a Southern Baptist? So I'm Southern Baptist. So am I. Are you? And he goes like 7 layers down. He goes, so are you Southern Baptist, East Minnesota post reconciliation group, or Southern Baptist, East Minnesota post reconciliation other Southern group? Oh, I'm Southern. And I told him die. It's like find these little things. Well, I agree with you 99% of the way, but that 1%, I'm going to fucking cut you off. No. And that's what Massey has to realize is like, look, if I could get 80% of what do I want now, I take it. And then I come back next session, I fight for the other 20%. That's what the Democrats do. They do incrementalism. Going for the home run each time gets you nothing. I was in Seattle when Ichiro Suzuki came to the Mariners and brought in the whole concept of small ball. And instead of the age of the sluggers, the guys always go for a home run. His whole thing was, I just want to slap it out there and get to first base. If I can get to first base, it's great. That's why he led the league for like 4 years in a row on base percentage. Because his whole goal was just to get to first base. I don't care about home runs. I don't care about doubles, triples. I want to get to first base. If I get there, there's a chance to score. That's the problem. We have to look at it and say, you know what, we're united on 80% of it. There are some fringe things where we have some disagreements, and that's cool. That's where we grow and evolve and refine our message. I'm fine with that. But we have to understand we're 80% overlapped. We're going to lose if we fight about the 20% we're not overlapped. If we focus on the 80% we win. Because we did win.
Massey votes in line with the Republican Party like 90% of the time.
Exactly. But the problem is in the Senate, when it comes up to crucial things, he votes no or present. It's like, dude, this is like, like the Build Back Better, the big beautiful bill. I wasn't a big fan of it because of some of the things it did, but I would say 8 out of 10 things that it did were good. He didn't like it. Rand Paul didn't like it. I'm like, dudes, you're getting 80-90% of what you want. Well, it's not everything, so I'm going to vote no. Well, then literally you're throwing all away the good stuff that we're going to get. You understand that? And you're throwing away the ability to argue for more because, it's like you're going out there in football. I'm going to throw a Hail Mary deep pass, Hail Mary deep pass, Hail Mary deep pass punt. I'm not going to play again because, I didn't get my Hail Mary first time. No, you grind it out. You don't just quit.
But here's the thing, it's the way I look at it, and maybe Massey looks at it the same way, I'm not sure, but this current situation we're under is it's like, hey, you can have a pile of shit or a pile of shit with sugar on it. And people are like, well, we're going to get pile of shit with sugar on it. Come on, join us. Like, no, I would rather burn the whole fucking country to the ground and everyone die than satanic pedophiles be running my life in my country. I'm sick. I'm just done with it,
I
man.
get it. The problem with
I'm so angry at and this has all been building since before I was born. And like
yeah,
I just came into it and it's like, hey, you having fun being controlled by Satan? No, I'm not. Like I'm so done with it.
the problem with that approach
I'm
though
sick
is
of all of this.
the problem with that approach is though, if you're the only one doing it, you're going to get fed shit. Okay, so
Only one doing what?
if you're the only one saying I'm not going to go either way, then you're going to get shit. It's the kind of thing where, and this is where you have to learn to cooperate with others. In other words, if I can get most of what I want, but not everything, and there are things I'm disappointed with, like I believe, honestly, we should just, if I was in Congress, I would, every time I got a chance, I'd introduce a bill saying roll back spending 2019 levels and increase it based upon inflation. And that's it. We'd actually have a budget surplus at this point if we were spending it in 2019 levels with compensation for inflation, even. We'd have a budget surplus today. It's all the extra spending beyond 2019 that's killing us. It's being continued. I would, that'd be my standpoint. But if I'm not willing to at least align myself with a group and then work at changing how that group views the future, then I am nothing. I'm a lone voice in the wind that's nothing going to happen. Would you rather be a member of a party and have the opportunity to maybe help direct and change that party and get your message and your beliefs out in front of more of them and see if you could build a coalition over 5, 6, 7 years? Or would you like to be the guy who's off in the corner saying, I don't like any of them. I'm not going to talk to any of them.
I want to
Who's
join
going to
the
be more
growing
effective?
I want to be join, which I guess I have. I want to join the growing cancer that kills its host. Any fact that like our government knows all about the Epstein thing. They know all the atrocities, they know how it operates, they know who's
Yep,
operating it, they
yep,
know all
yep.
the parties involved. I find that completely unacceptable. Like at this point, those people, no matter how much money they give me, no matter how many whatever they can do for me, they are my enemy.
Yeah, I get it.
And like this is where I'm at. Like you're not the same type of person as me. I understand that you say you're a Catholic or you say you're this or you wear the red tie. You are against transgenderism, but there's some really big things that me and you will never. Not only do we not align on them, like they make you my enemy. If I was king of America right now, I would take the whole pedophile operation and I would publicly execute every single one of them.
Oh, me too. And
But
don't get me wrong,
they're
I'm
not doing
100%
it, and
behind
they
you.
don't seem interested in doing it at all.
I'm 100% behind you. And here's where I think Massey is being a fool, and most of them are being a fool, and actually they know this, and they're playing a lot of people for fools. Number one, the president signed the bill that came through and said release all the data. The president signed executive orders saying release all the grand testimony thing. Why is it being stopped? Because of courts. And courts are easy to influence, as we found out. Politician and money can influence courts, and they're
I
there.
would ignore the courts.
And they're essentially unstoppable because you have to either impeach them or convict them of a crime and remove them because they weren't doing the right thing. The way for Massey or somebody like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I remember when, I'll find it, I'll dig it out for you. This was suggested to her a few times, she ignored it. And this is why I think Trump's right to call her a blowhard, because she was just basically amassing herself. The way to get the Epstein information out there, if you're a Congress member, is to go on the congressional floor during your open speech and debate time and read the Epstein files. They will be officially entered into the public record, unredacted, and nobody could stop you and nobody could charge you. And a court cannot charge you with leaking classified information because you're in public debate during congressional time. That's the way to do it. Go out there, shoot. You could go read it. Well, but we need to release. Well, why don't you read it? Because you're allowing, by not doing that, if that's the big thing that you're all built up about, like, oh, you gotta have this release, great, I want to release. Cool. Then go read it in your open speech time during Congress. You're protected by the speech and debate clause of Congress because you're on the floor during an open session and you're not doing it, then you're hiding it just as much. You're letting the courts cover it for you. Why?
Let
That's
me
the
give
way
you
to do it. And it's like, it's done. Okay, that's done. Next.
but let me give you a scenario. Here's how I view this debacle. Let's just say your son was raped by someone in the neighborhood, and you're like, I'm gonna go kill him, the guy that did it. I think I know you well enough to know that that would be an option, a legitimate option. And then the HOA said, "Now hold on, we got to vote on." I would go kill them anyway.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not gonna wait for the vote. And if you vote no, I can't kill them. It's irrelevant to me. I want a government that when the courts say no, you can't do anything about this situation, I would say I don't care. I'm going to do it anyway. And I know the argument against that. Like, you're talking about tearing down the system that protects us from tyranny. But there always comes a point in history where at some point something so dirty, rotten, and destructive to good, God, whatever you want to call it, I call it God. God is good. But at some point, you you're in a position where it's like the evil is saying, nah, nah, we know you won't do it, and they know you won't do it, so now you lose. How long can we just lose to
Well,
evil?
but like I said, the solution is right there in their face. Just read the stuff on the floor.
So
Done.
if they read it,
Yeah.
if they read it,
Yeah.
know what?
Then the information is out there. It's the same as if the courts released it. If the courts released it, then what?
So the information's out there,
Yeah.
then what?
Then it's the same thing as if the courts released it. Why do you want the information released, Seth?
So we can murder the pedophiles.
Okay, great. So does it matter if the court releases it or if it's actually read in open testimony? Either way, the information's out there. What I'm saying is the
I'm talking about
information
something a little
released.
different.
How we handle that information becomes something to consider after that. And
I'm
that
talking about
becomes
something. I see. I think you're talking about you're more specific right now. You're talking about like the Massey releasing the FC. And so what you're correct. That's what we were talking about. But I want to go beyond that. Our government knows there is a global pedophile network,
yeah. Yep.
and they don't seem interested in that.
Correct. And the way to tear that down, again, is exposing with information. So get it out there, and we'll quickly find all the politicians who are involved and be able to trace very fast back to them. Well, these guys are also involved in things like that. You can know it. The way to defang the courts from stopping you is to just release the information in the first place. That eliminates all this. The court stopping President Trump. Great. The way to do it is to say, the Congress could very quickly and easily, with just Republican majority, pass a law that if a district court issues more than any judge, if a district court, including all the judges in that district, appellate or district level, issues more than 3 decisions that are overturned within a given year, that entire court is defunded the next year. And that's within Congress's rights, because anything under the Supreme Court is required by the Constitution. All other courts are set up by Congress and they're funded by Congress. So just pass that law, and suddenly all these folks who are throwing up roadblocks that are, we all look at it and go, that's insane. And they're overturned like 2 weeks later. They're just trying to slow shit down. That happens the 3 times, not to a judge, but to any judge in the court. Hey, the entire court, the entire district court is defunded. Not just you lose your money, but all the other people working for you do too. Guess what? You're going to face such insane pressure from the others around you to get it right that you're going to get it right. Force them to police themselves or they all go home. The solutions are right there. The fact that we're not holding or our politicians are not doing it tells me the problem isn't the problem isn't the process. The problem isn't the structure. The problem are the people running the structure, and replace them.
But we never replace them.
Well, and that's a failure. But I think we're getting more and more, I wouldn't say populist, but revolutionary in our voting, just by the extension of podcasts, by extension of the internet, the extension of a lot of what we're doing. I think that has a big impact on things. I think what we will see is this will slowly change over time. I think people are becoming more aware of it and people are willing to go new. I think also that's why you see a lot of Congress people who have been there for decades and decades, as well as some have only been there for 6 years. I mean, it's kind of convenient that MTG kind of decided to retire literally one day after her pension becomes permanent. You find out who was there for the money and the power and who was there for their own self-aggrandizement versus those who were there because they want to do good. And I think that'll quickly happen. So I'm seeing good things happen because there is no longer those 6 media people like you were talking about, 6 channels to influence everything you had. It's now thousand, and people can find information. And when information is proven true, it tends to percolate up, and you end up with everybody admitting it's true, but a lot of people saying, "Yeah, it's true." Like Snap. Oh, Snap brands could never get illegal agreements could never get Snap. It's not allowed. Not allowed. Well, there may be a way to do it. Okay, it is happening, and here's why it's a good thing. You're forcing those who want to support it to say, "Yeah, it's illegal, but this is why it's good." But everybody at least acknowledges that it's happening now. You can't hide it anymore. So I think that's the big thing. And so I hold that to the future of this is really going to change stuff. So I think it's getting better. I don't think it needs to get torn down. I think the people who are in charge of it and are screwing things up need to get their asses kicked. And that includes guys like Thomas Massey. And, I like Rand Paul. A lot of his positions are great too, but the way he governs is absolutely idiotic because it's like, unless I get 100% of what I want, I'm going to go home. No, that's not how you do anything. That's not how you do anything. That's not how you do doctor. Do you look at your patients and say, you know what? There's a 95% chance you're going to get better with this, but there's a 5% you can energy, so we're not going to do it. Would you ever counsel that?
No,
That's what they
if they're
do.
never gonna walk again, I do tell them, it's like, "Hey, you're never gonna walk again, but we can make your joints feel better with range of motions, or we're gonna do what we can."
Yeah, but you're never going to look at somebody and say, I'm going to recommend this exercise for you, and there's a 1 out of 10,000 chance that it might break your arm or permanently damage your nerve. I'm going to tell you about it, but I'm still going to recommend we do it. You don't go, well, there's a 1 in 10,000 chance that this might go wrong, so we're never going to do it.
But
That's what Massey and that's what Paul and that's what some of these absolutists take, which is like you're just being an idiot. You're not being a politician. You're not actually debating or anything. You're not trying to improve anything. You're just there to kind of grandstand and get your own stuff through. What the fuck is going on? You're not doing anything. I would vote for, what? It's still a budget that's spending too much, but guess what? It's now down 1% of what it was. And next year it's down 2.5%. Next year it's down 4%. It's like, if I can whittle it down over 20 years, I'll whittle it to nothing. Because understand this is the actual fact. We're spending at 2019 levels. Pre-COVID, all the big boost of spending that came from COVID, right? If we got rid of if we just right now cut that all back and said, you know what, we're going to go back to how we were at 2019 to project forward with inflation, right? So we're coming up with inflation, it's ramping up. We would have a budget surplus today.
and Doge discovered a significant amount of fraud,
100%.
and they didn't cut it. They cut a little bit of it.
Well, I know, but here's what Doge did get done. And people are like, well, Doge didn't cut it. You know what they did? They forced it. But what Doge did, while it wasn't immediately cut, what they did was made it a lot harder to do because now every single check must have a charge code and a reason why it's being spent. You used to be able to just cut checks without saying either one of those, who was getting charged for it or why it was being spent. That would just happen. Well, now you
Here's
can
a
no longer
question.
hand checks out.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
And this may illuminate my issue with everything. So why wasn't it cut?
Why wasn't it cut?
Short answer.
I think the short answer is there were too many sacred oxes that were going to be gored.
Okay. And why is there still a global pedophile ring going on? Short answer.
Because ultimately lust and evil drives a lot of men's hearts, and a lot of people have made deals with the devil, whether that's the physical devil or an actual person who's doing evil things like that to get themselves better, and they all want to hide it. That's what happens. Why is there still why are there grooming and rape gangs in the UK? Why are there drugs being pushed across the border? Why are they why is there slavery more prevalent today than it was in the 1860s? Because people are evil, and it's become easier to be evil.
My point is, extreme open fraud, which is what Doge uncovered. Like, oh my God, we got hundreds of billions of dollars that we are paying, our citizens are paying in to their government that's supposed to work for them. It's just being, wasted or used against them in color revolutions. Black Lives Matter. That's a horrific. I think that's a horrific thing. A global pedophile ring, again, partially funded by us. A horrific thing. We're relying on a system to fix these things that never seems to fix them. We just transition into other problems that we have the same issue with. Oh no, the system's going to work. We just got to do this. It's getting better. But meanwhile, we're getting completely screwed over with fraud, and kids are getting banged on an island. Trust the system anymore. That's the problem. I don't think the system at this point, I think it was set up great. And even the founding fathers said, like, I'm going to paraphrase, this system can only work with a moral people, like that all believe in God or whatever. whatever. I'm sure they said slightly different things, but we don't have that anymore. Like we have satanic people, we have communists, we have greedy people on both sides, Republican and Democrat, both corrupt as hell. I don't. I think the system has crumbled. We don't see it, or we can't prove it, or whatever. But it obviously, like, hey, there's pedophiles, a global pedophile ring that we're supporting. Well, we'll stop it. We're going to do this bill. We're going to talk to these people. I'm investigating this. That system's not working. There's still kids getting banged on an island. There's still people getting, there's still terrible
100%.
things happening. And I
100%.
don't think this system, and this isn't just me saying this is all of Gen Z.
Oh
So
yeah,
I
no,
guess if
I
we
totally
just
get it.
wait 20 years, this might all fix itself, or they might just get to be absorbed into the whole system
And
again.
the best thing they could do is vote everybody out and power right, because the system is fine. It's the people running the system that are not. Like I said, if Massey or MTG or anybody else was, or any elected congressional member was so offended by Epstein, go on the floor and just start reading the files, because you have access to the files, number one.
But why didn't the president just end the pedophile ring?
Because he can't. He doesn't have that power. So here's the
Because
thing.
of the system.
Well, no, it's not. It's because
That's
the
the
system is set up.
problem.
Okay, so let me ask you, Seth. Would you like Joe Biden to have had the power to basically go in and stop all Christian churches? Because
Exactly.
it's the same thing.
That's the system. Like,
No,
part of the system is the fact that if you break the system down, it's scary on the other side.
No.
So we're trapped in the system that doesn't work. It's not good for me.
to get things to do right, and there becomes this equality of, well, we have to treat each other equal. If I could do something to you, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? That whole concept, it's incredibly biblical. That's how the system is set up, to have that kind of tension. Purposefully, the president cannot just go and take unilateral action. Why? Because that's called a king, and that's what we fought against. That was the whole point of the system getting set up. Because a king could do that. A king could come in and say, you know what? Your wife Samantha's beautiful, and I love your dog Pluto. Boom, you're dead. I'm taking him. There's nothing you or any of your family could do, because fuck you, I'm the king.
But
That's
this
the
is
way
an
it is.
argument for this is an argument for a king.
No,
Because
this is
king,
the argument against the king.
if there's 10,000, if there's, I'm just gonna make numbers up because we have to. If there's, and I'm sure you would agree, if there's even one kid getting raped, it's bad. It's just as bad, right? But if there's 50,000 kids getting raped, and a king could stop it, but our system cannot, that seems like a very, 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 very big problem.
Well, exactly. But the thing is, if there's a king that kicks it all out, the next king can say, we're going to allow it and we're going to make it normal. The problem is, when you have a person who is above the rule of law, which is the rules we all agreed to operate by, which is happening now, by the way. I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying people who break the law are operating above the law. When you have somebody operating above the law and you make that established and okay, then there are no rules for anybody. You have broken down the entire thing. There is no trust or relation between anybody else. There's no reason for us to have anything. So the problem is, again, if you have a Congress member who's concerned about it, who is really concerned about it, go on the floor and read the information, and that destroys that pedophile ring, because now it's exposed. Exposure is always the biggest way to kill any kind of a bad thing. You know, why? How do we know John Gotti? How do we know all the Al Capone? How do we know all those people? Exposure of their crimes. And then it became obvious why that was being done. And a lot of people who were covering them up paid the penalty too. A lot of people that were on the grip. That's the point. That's the way to do it. Exposure is the way to do it. If you tear down the system, then you end up with no system. And if there's no system, what's to stop me from coming and kidnapping Pluto?
See, I don't think I don't think these people will ever be punished. I think that if we push hard enough, if every American's like, we're done with it, I think they're going to find a few. They're going to pick a few of them and say, we got them. But then they're going to start another system, another pedophile ring, whatever.
You're always going to have that. You're always going to have crime. Murder is always going to happen. Rape is
Yeah, but
always going to happen.
I think if Trump somehow said, hey guys, we're gonna end all the other endeavors we're doing, or let's just say he doesn't even announce it, because I wouldn't announce it if I was going after the global pedophile. I would just do it. If I just did it, destroyed all the pedophile ring, made it very clear that America will, like, if you have a global pedophile ring in your country, you better hope we don't find out about it. You better hope America doesn't find out about it because you're
100%,
done at that point. I
100%.
think if he just did that one time, then we would not have to deal with this, at least our country being part of it anymore.
We would still have to deal with it. It'd be greatly minimized. Just like any other crime or horrific thing that goes on, we still have to deal with because there's still evil in the world. It's going to be reduced. And that's ultimately comes down to that. But it starts with exposing it. And what drives me nuts are people who have the ability to expose it, independent of courts or outside running the system. The system, I appreciate that Trump's at least saying, hey, these judges are saying I can't do this, can't do that. We know they're wrong because the Supreme Court has already said they're wrong, but I'm going to abide by them for 2 weeks till it turns out. Texas redistricting, right? The court said, oh, you can't redistrict Texas. The Supreme Court said, actually, they fucking can. There's no reason why they can't draw new things. That's a roadblock. The people who put roadblocks up, okay, they're assholes, right? But you're playing with the system and you live by the system, okay? I get that. The people who have the way around the system, congressional members. They can just read out and give any facts they want on the floor, and because of the speech and debate rule, they are immune from anything they say. That is what they should be doing. They should just go out and give it. If they're that worried about it, the fact nobody is tells me they are not that worried about it, which makes me go, should they even be in a position of power? No. I won't tear down the system because some people are not using the system. I will tear down
Well,
the people and leave the
I'm
system.
confused. I'm confused. So are you saying that there is something that they could read?
Yes, every single one of them has gone into a SCIF if they want to. If they're on the judiciary or the crime board, I mean, there's like 3 or 4 committees that have access to the Epstein information, right? They go into the SCIF and they can read all that information and they can come out and say, this is what I read in the, this is what my sworn testimony of what I read in the SCIF. And they could just repeat it verbatim.
So have they read the Epstein file?
If they haven't, number one, then why the hell are they even talking about it? If they have and they're still not doing it, it's because they don't want the information to get out there. So it's very, very simple to do. It's like, the whole thing with the filibuster. Now, the filibuster exists. The Senate uses it to stop shit, right? The filibuster, as it exists today, the pocket filibuster, where I get to say, well, I'm going to object and I'm going to throw a filibuster and everybody just stops it. That's a relatively recent invention and can be quickly overturned with a 51-vote maneuver, which does not eliminate the filibuster. It leaves the filibuster in place, which is, oh, we're going to do the filibuster as it was pre-1974. Which means if you want to filibuster, you have to literally physically get up, stand in the Senate pulpit, and begin your speech. And the second you step down, your filibuster is over. Enforce that rule. A 51 vote takes care of it. Filibuster's in place. So the most you could do is, hey, I talked for 25 hours to stop a bill. Then it goes on. It's no longer, well, I'm going to pocket veto it, and it's dead. You can change it so you still respect the filibuster. The system's still in place. We're just putting back to how it was pre-1974, where if you're really passionate about something, you're going to stop in speech, and hopefully your fellow senators will see your point. When it has happened a few times, not very often. That's an easy way to change the filibuster. It's not tearing the system down. It overcomes it. We don't have to tear down the system of just like, I'm ignoring the courts and doing whatever the hell I want. We don't have to. We don't have to do that. Congress has that